finding the time to step away from your blog and care for yourself and your family and everything you need to do in your life, it's just going to enrich your work.
That was Traci York, and we're talking about finding work-life balance as a food blogger on episode 35 of the Chopped podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. Thanks for joining me today for the 35th episode of the Chopped podcast. As you know, this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Each week, I'm going to be sharing thoughts and stories, interviews, everything related to food blogging so we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today's guest is Traci York of the site Vanilla and Bean, and Traci and I are talking about something I find very intriguing. It's the concept of finding work-life balance as a food blogger. It's such an important topic because we all know how food blogging can be like all time consuming. It's a hungry beast and it can eat up all of your time if you let it. That's why I thought it would be great to talk with Traci today because she has really put a lot of thought into what it takes for her to, maybe nurture the creativity that she requires to turn out the kind of blog that she wants. I love this concept. I love the idea of just, really knowing yourself and knowing what it takes to turn out the kinds of content that you want for your site. So anyway, I hope you find inspiration in this interview as well. I love it. Hey, I learned a new word today I wanted to share with you guys. It's the word souriant. It's a French word, which means it's kind of a plus because that's fun to say. But I also love that souriant means smiling or tends to smile a lot. If you haven't noticed by now, that's kind of my MO. I like to laugh a lot, and people have always commented on that a lot of my life, that I like to smile and have fun, and and I think that's an important place to be as a blogger because here's the way I look at it. Regardless of what we're doing with our careers, if we're a bank teller or an account manager or consultant, a pilot, a CEO, whatever, we should find a place that we love what we do and have fun with it. And sometimes it's easy with blogging to just be focusing on all the serious parts of it, and that's definitely there. But finding a place to smile as we work and have a good time as we work, I think that's important too. Okay, so let's go straight to that interview. Today's intro shout out is to Chef Sarah Elizabeth of the site Daisy at Home. Sarah said she was listening to the Chopped podcast recently while walking the dog. Hey Sarah, we've got 2 dogs here at our house that we walk every day, so I totally get you. And it's the perfect time of year to be out walking the dogs because the trees are starting to change here and it's just beautiful. So kudos to you, Sarah. Okay, everyone, in honor of Sarah, put on those tennies, leash up the pooches, put on your headphones, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Traci York of Vanilla and Bean on the show today. Traci, welcome to the Chopped podcast.
Hi, Marley. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Traci, I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you today about your blog and your photography and how you find balance in your life as a food blogger. But let's take a step back. Can you describe the way you started your blog?
Well, I started my blog approximately 16 months ago, and I had been nudged along by my cousin, who is also a blogger, but she's not a food blogger, but she does more of a health and work-life balance type blog. And she kept telling me, you cook and you're so creative with your baking and your cooking, and you should really consider starting your own blog. And so this was going on for years prior to when I started my blog. And so I just kept giving it some thought. It was kind of in the back of my mind for quite some time. And finally, I decided I just needed to go for it. I wanted to. I'd been reading food blogs for years. I enjoyed them. They helped me in my cooking process and my learning process. And so I just started one.
That's exciting. And I was telling you earlier, I actually found your blog on Heidi's Foodie Crush site as one of the top 5 blogs to watch out for. And so to go from just, this idea and starting your blog and really to be relatively new at it, it seems like you've really accomplished some great things in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's been a huge learning curve, but
I
and
know.
every day is a learning process. Just this morning, I had another experience.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that intrigues me the most about food blogging is like every day feels like a new thing to be learned about it.
Absolutely.
So, were you always interested in cooking?
I have been for a long time. In fact, in high school, I worked at a restaurant and just had a lot of fun there. My friends worked there and just had a really good time preparing food. And um, then kind of got out of it when I went to college and in a professional sense anyway. And so I went to college for biology and chemistry. In my undergrad, I studied that, and then I went on to obtain my master's in education, science education. And I went into education. I taught at science museums, and then I went into public education. And that's where I stayed for about 9 years. And it was during that time that I became a vegetarian, and which really opened up my world to new foods and new textures and tastes and flavors, and started really rediscovering food at home and cooked a great deal for myself, my friends, baking an awful lot for everyone that requested it. And so it was during that time that I rediscovered my love of food, my passion for food, and also for local and organic food as well.
That's really cool. And so, you just went from that to thinking, I think I'm going to turn this into a blog. And what about photography? Did you know photography when you first started out as a blogger?
I did not. I was taking photographs with my point and shoot camera, and I did that for a long time. And I failed to mention I was in pastry school after I left my teaching career, and we had a photographer come and talk to us about food photography, and I was completely intrigued and blown away and excited at the same time because in the back of my mind I had the idea of a food blog going on, and
Yeah.
of course a lot of the blogs that I followed had gorgeous photography. And
Right.
so the more I thought about it, and the more I played with my point and shoot camera, and continued thinking about starting my own blog, I just started. And I also, at that time, after I started my blog, I acquired a DSLR. And of course, that changed my whole world as far as photography goes.
Yeah. Of course, learning how to use it is also a trick too. Did you take any workshops or just try to play around with it to develop your skills?
Oh, yeah. I read books I read the really thick book. I guess it's DSLR for Dummies, and
Yeah.
then I read another book, Plate to Pixel, and then
Hmm.
I did go to one workshop in Seattle that was incredibly helpful. It completely changed my photography, and you can almost see it on my blog from uh, a post that I did prior to the workshop and a post that I did after the workshop. And that totally changed my skill set and my ability to use my DSLR effectively and be able to produce the images that I'm producing now. And of course, some help from other food bloggers as well.
Oh, right. There's a lot of bloggers who've written resources on how to develop your food photography. It's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And did you notice that helped your blog? In other words, when you took that workshop and you made it sound like, you noticed a big difference, did that really help your blog take off more, you think?
I think, yes, it did. My photos were getting noticed more by Food Gawker and other sites such as the Feed, and they're mostly on Instagram. But I think they were definitely noticed more as far as the image quality and my ability to take action shots. Those seem to be really popular with people who enjoy looking at food blogs and Food Gawker and Taste Spotting. Those
Where you're
sites
pouring the syrup on the pancakes, those kinds of shots.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it just implies action. People really like action shots.
Yes, and I do too. I feel like I'm obsessed with the sprinkling shots, which are a lot of fun to get anyway. But
Yeah.
I think they're just a lot of fun to look at and
Yeah.
and imagine. Imagine yourself sprinkling whatever on your tacos.
Yeah, you can just like put yourself in that picture and think it's yourself doing it. Yeah. So you mentioned feed. I just thought it'd be good to explain for everybody. It's a hashtag feed
Yes.
on Instagram, and if they select your photo, you can get a lot of discoveries that way.
Yes, the feed has been is just a wonderful community, and they're growing. They do have their own website, their own blog that they run, and it's just a collection of recipes from people all over the world, home cooks that enjoy food and enjoy, going to the farmer's market and getting fresh vegetables and putting them together into something beautiful. And I just really enjoy being a part of that community and sharing my recipes with them, and then also gleaning new recipes and inspiration from all of the cooks and bloggers that are contributing to that particular site.
Yeah, that's great. It's a good resource if you haven't already started using it. So it's good to tell people about it. Okay, so what's your favorite part about food blogging so far?
So far, I think my favorite part is actually taking the photographs. I find that really relaxing and very challenging at sometimes, just getting the shot that I'm looking for, from the lighting to the positioning of the camera to the colors of the food, which is really important for good food photography, I think, is bringing out the vibrance of the food. But I go back to relaxing because it's such a creative process for me, and being able to spend the amount of time that I do while I photograph the food that I make is just a really, it's a calming time because the food is made and now I get to enjoy it. And sometimes it's a little more challenging than others because, of course, the food's getting cold, the steam is waning, and you want to capture that shot. But for the most part, that's the most relaxing yet challenging part of food blogging, I guess.
That's interesting that you can be relaxed and challenged at the same time. It seems like a great place to be.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so anything about food blogging you don't like so much?
The tech end of it has been extremely challenging for me. I had run a site on my own when I was teaching. I would communicate to parents and students via this. I wouldn't really call it a blog. It was more like just a website. And that was pretty easy to run, but a food blog is completely different than that. I do have a little bit of background there, but things like, something's showing up in the wrong spot, or you wake up one morning and your pictures are missing, or, all these heart-stopping moments where you think you've lost everything. That has been a real challenge for me, and I'm just now, I'm just now getting to the point where I'm more relaxed when something happens because I have resources to help me tweak it out and to figure out what's going on.
That's
but
good.
before then, and even still, it is a little frustrating because I don't have that skill set and I want to have that skill set. So I've taught myself everything up into, I think, this point, even we're talking now, and trying to get some help on what I call the back end of the blog, because things just happen that I don't know how to fix.
I'm a big advocate for, here's the thing. Food bloggers, I think, have a tendency to want to do everything themselves. I am in that same boat. And so I think the more you can have resources that help you out is really important.
Yes.
I don't know what that is about food bloggers. Why do we feel like we have to do it all?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because I definitely, I've been reading about that lately, and I think it's either a control issue or I don't know. I'd love to figure that out, and I hate to over categorize and put everybody in the same, stereotype every food blogger to be the same. But I just noticed this trend. There's a lot of people in the food blogging community that share this trait, and that is we like to do things ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that I know that part of this has been fear. I'm afraid to let somebody get into the back end of my blog who probably I've never met before, and I've just had recommendations come in. And so I've got to let go of that and know that I've backed my stuff up, and I'm not going to worry about that part.
You want to know what my fear is, Traci? I'm thinking about this. It's not necessarily my fear that they're going to mess things up. I have this fear of what happens when it doesn't work out and I have to tell them this isn't, you know what I mean? It's like you have to be the boss of your food blog, and you have to be okay with being able to say you're fired.
Right, exactly, and that's a good point too. Not that anything's going to get messed up, so to speak, but more like, if it doesn't work out or things aren't getting arranged how I had in my mind. I mean, it's a very challenging communication to have sometimes, where you're talking about your virtual world, and to communicate what's in your mind's eye out of your, to communicate that to another person is not always easy.
No.
And so they may get a different image of what you have in your mind, and that piece is sometimes challenging.
I'm reading the book, The Art of Extreme Self-Care by Cheryl Richardson, and she's got a great quote in her book, and I'll read it to you if you don't mind.
Please.
Give me 1 second. Okay. If you want to live an authentic, meaningful life, you need to master the art of disappointing and upsetting others, hurting feelings, and living with the reality that some people just won't like you. And that's okay. Isn't that great?
Yes, I really appreciate that, Marley. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I thought it seemed kind of appropriate to what we were talking about. Like for me, if I think about letting go of some things that go on in my food blog, as far as like finding resources to do things for me, the hard part is to realize, what if they don't do it the way I like, and I have to tell them that. And I don't know, I'm starting to get over that little by little, but it's not easy.
No kidding. Thank you so much. That's a really nice quote.
Excellent. Well, how do we get off on that train? Okay, let's go back to okay, your background is in education, and I'm impressed with that, because I wonder if you feel like having this background in education has helped you in your blog in any way.
I think so. For example, when I was teaching my students how to write scientific reports, details were always really important. And for me, that's how I was trained when I was going to school. And in food blogging, the details come out when you're writing your recipe. And I think for some people who cook at home, they are able to read between the lines and cook, however they were trained, or cook to what they know. But some people like details. I've noticed that several times from some of my readers. They really appreciate the details that are put within the method section. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's helped me. But I think what else has helped me more than, I guess, my teaching career is the education I've had, and just being able to problem solve and work through issues on my own, of course, with the help and support of other food bloggers, and now a tech support individual, has been really helpful to where I'm at today. I think everything I've done up until today or now has brought me to this point in my life, whether it be my education background or school or pastry school. All the people I've met along the way and the support that I've had has brought me to what I'm doing now. Well,
that's a great feeling, isn't it? That that makes it sound like you found a place of passion where you're at right now.
I feel like that. I feel very. I feel good. I feel good where I'm at.
Well, that is a great segue into, one of the reasons I brought you on the show was I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the topic of finding work-life balance as a food blogger. And just so everybody knows, we agreed, Traci and I, before we got onto this conversation, that, it's a work in process for, I think, every food blogger out there, because just because you might have your work-life balance covered at one point in time, then another time it may be completely different. So as long as we all agree this is a discussion, we're all trying to figure this out together. So, I think it's particularly true if you're working in an area of your passion, because I feel like you may go into something because it's your passion, and then somehow working in it can strip the joy of that. Do you ever feel like now that you're into it that you're concerned about working too much or those kinds of things?
I do get concerned about that sometimes. So, for example, Most recently, I challenged myself to post twice a week. I only post once a week, and I do that for many reasons. But I challenged myself to post twice a week this past month, and I just found that it was not a good work-life balance for me at all. I was working on the weekends, and I just found myself not spending time with the things that I needed to spend time with. For example, taking care of myself, like working out, taking care of my garden and my yard, just daily life stuff, spending time with my husband. And it wasn't that I didn't love what I was doing, because I had a blast. I really stretched myself and I enjoyed it. But on the other hand, I reflected on the fact that I wasn't taking care of my immediate needs that I needed to be taken care of on a daily basis. So I found that didn't quite work for me. But the once a week posting is really, it enables me to take care of things that I need to take care of, and also spend time on my blog perfecting my recipes, and spending time on social media. That is a huge, that takes so much time, Marley.
I know. I know. Traci, that makes me think of two things that I'm really impressed with. One is that, first of all, you're experimenting. You're trying different things. For a month, you decided to try posting twice a week and to see what kind of impact that would have. But then also, you're very aware of how that's impacting you. In other words, to me, it comes across as you have some goals on how you want to live your life. And I think that's really great.
Yes, I do. In fact, that brings me to one of the books that I'm reading right now, The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. And I really feel like, for so long, my professional career brought me to this point. And that's one of the reasons why I left my professional careers, because I didn't have that time. I had a hard time finding the work-life balance. And so food blogging has really helped me do that on so many levels, not only the creativity level, but also being able to share what I love and share it with other people in such a huge, broad audience.
That's amazing. That sounds like a great book. I'm going to leave the link in the show notes page. And now we can start dueling books, because I'm going to tell you, I'm reading the book Essentialism. I think it's Gary. I've got to think of the guy's name, Gary McCown, or I don't know how to say his last name. I'll leave the link in the show notes page for that too. And he talks in there about this importance of, if you don't make decisions about your own life, other people will make them, like, your kids or your spouse or your boss will create boundaries for you. And so now is the time to start thinking about the kind of boundaries you want to have in your life, as far as, how much time you're going to spend working, how much time you're going to spend, like you say, cultivating your garden. These are the kinds of things that really actually, I think, make you a better food blogger as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to sound judgmental either, because I also feel like, some people may choose to maybe have a period of time in their life where they can devote a lot of time to working. And if that's their choice, then and they've made that decision for themselves, I respect that.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point. At that time in my life when I was teaching, it felt really good, and it was the right thing for me to be doing at that time. And I was enriched beyond compare from it. However, there came a point where my personal motivations and energies just started to shift, and that didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took me, 3 to 4 years of thinking, hey, I might want to consider, doing something else, to finally get to that point, to make that transition. And it wasn't easy.
I can imagine. Did you spend a lot of time preparing and kind of mapping it out?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about it and thinking about how my life would change, our life would change and be different. But it's a decision I do not regret. And I appreciate the opportunity to have taught for those years that I taught, and move on to something new and fun and challenging.
Has it met your expectations?
So far it has, actually. I think each and every day brings its new and interesting opportunities and challenges, but I'm up for that, and I'm excited every day to get up and greet my audience and my fabulous kitchen and the farmers markets that I live by. I mean, it's it's just a gift, and I just really appreciate where I'm at right now.
And I imagine that you must have like a mission on your blog that that may help inspire you. Like I always feel like as a blogger or whatever, a small business that you would have, it's important to have your big why. Like, why am I getting up every day and doing this?
Right. Exactly. I have defined that and outlined it. Mainly for, I think, people who are maybe transitioning to vegetarianism, or maybe even looking into transitioning their diet to a fully plant-based diet. I know when I started eating less meat and then eventually stopped eating it altogether, most of the support that was there for me were from the few food bloggers that were focused on plant-based eating. And so I really appreciate them and what they've done for me. And so I feel like in a way it's just, I'm passing on the love and the joy that I've learned and been able to experience. And then of course my background I'm originally from Texas, and so my background in Mexican food and Tex-Mex, that totally comes out in my cooking. And just sharing that, because it's just an important part of who I am, and teaching others how to enjoy good food.
Yeah. I would have never guessed you're from Texas. I don't hear that at all. You don't have an accent.
It's been a long time. You'll see it come out in my writing. It comes out in my writing, and I don't know why that is. If you hear me talk versus how I write, it's very similar, but I use a lot of Texas slang sometimes.
Y'all.
Yeah, you'll hear that a lot in my writing, and I don't know why that doesn't come out when I just talk every day. It's very strange, Marley.
It is. When you go to Texas, does it kind of slip back in?
It does, because my family is, a lot of my family is still there, and hearing them talk, it's just like pouring syrup.
I love it. That's too good. They probably think you're a Yankee now, huh?
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to this theme of finding balance. And I'm just curious, do you have any things that help you in the transition from, let's say you've gotten up in the morning and you're transitioning into work, or at the end of the day, transitioning from work into, your regular life again? Or do they is it all integrated and together?
Most days it's integrated. What I've recently started doing is in the mornings taking at least 5 to 10 minutes of just quiet meditation time. Mm-hmm. And that has really helped me center my days before I get up and get moving, because generally what was happening is as soon as I wake up, I was at it. I was, checking to make sure my blog was still running, that my ads were running, that if I had any new comments coming in, just right off the bat. And I'm finding that I need to really wake up a little slower in the mornings. What I mean by slower is not get the day going right away, but to have a little me time, and then have some breakfast, and then, get the day going. Like I used to do when I had a job I was going to every day, and not be so focused on starting as soon as I get up.
I think that's really important, because I think if you're not careful, you can have an external approach to your day and not even take a moment to find out what's going on inside of you.
Right. I agree with that. And that's really been helpful, getting me kind of centered for the day and focused.
Oh, that's good. Do you have any kind of like productivity things that you do, like maybe some kind of lists that you keep that helps you stay on track?
Oh, yes. I'm a list keeper. I have a calendar, and the night before, and I usually do this a little bit before I go to bed, after dinner's finished and the day's kind of slowing down, and I'll go through my calendar and write out, plan what I'm going to do the next day. I think that comes from my teaching days, and that goes back to what you were asking about before, is things that help me now because of my teaching, and that's got to be one of them, is the planning process. I'm a stickler about planning and making sure that I have everything I need for my next day's post or recipe or what have you. So definitely, I think a calendar is so important.
Do you plan out your posts far in advance, or just, for the week?
Usually I usually plan out about 2 to 3 weeks in advance.
That's good. That's really good. I think that helps you. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, it's the Super Bowl. Oh, I never thought about doing a recipe for, or, like if you could spend a little bit of time looking out in the future, it can help you prepare for things like that.
Right. And sometimes when when I go pick up my CSA, I only know a day ahead of time what I'm going to get. And so sometimes I don't know what I'm going to make with what is presented to me from our farmers. So then I try to plan really fast. Sometimes that works, sometimes it does not, because I've had some recipe fails, and obviously I'm not going to post those. But so I have to go back to the drawing board and replan, and
Yeah, and that's kind of fun too. So it sounds to me like you've got a nice balance between planning ahead, but also a little bit of seeing what the moment delivers to you as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. And so what about the topic of perfection? I'm curious about this because it's something I battle with, where I will find myself spending, way too much time like nitpicking on some little thing that I imagine will have no impact to my audience whatsoever. Drives me crazy. I just wonder, if you've ever had to battle that, and, how you've handled that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I think where that hits me the hardest is in my photographs. So there'll be times where I'm photographing something I've made, and for whatever reason, the pictures just did not come out how I wanted. And so I'll struggle with that. Do I reshoot? Do I make the recipe again, reshoot? Because as as a food blogger, there's a lot of time involved there.
Yes.
And so I have on a few recipes gone back and reshot them, and then others I've just let go. And when I look back at those recipes now, because I've reviewed them, and I think, the one I let go doesn't look as bad as I thought it did at that time.
Yeah.
But it is a struggle. At what point can you just let it go and let it go in the world? Which takes us back to what we were talking about before.
It all comes full circle, yes.
No doubt.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think you can actually be your own worst enemy in that regard, that you, spend so much time. It's almost like, I don't know, like a stalling mechanism, maybe, preventing ourselves from taking the next step forward.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Marley. Stalling and fear.
Fear. That's what we were talking about before. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I remember.
Yep. Yep.
Yes. So that's interesting. And so the other question I was going to ask you is, with you being kind of new to all this, do you have advice for other people who are, and you've been at this for nearly a couple of years at this point, but still, people who are either thinking about starting out or are kind of new to food blogging, what advice do you have for them?
I think that, just making sure that you're in it for the enjoyment of it, primarily, and for, helping other people, helping your audience, and really thinking about where you've been and what has brought you to this point, and all of your experiences, especially if you're food blogging, all of your food experiences up to this point. You have something to share, and I think that just being yourself and putting yourself out there, mm-hmm. Here's the fear thing again, putting yourself out there is really important, and you never know who you're going to speak to. It's amazing the connections I've made through blogging. I've been blown away, absolutely blown away, and it has been incredibly rewarding. I think something else for new bloggers, and something I'm having a hard time doing and still learning about, is giving time to yourself, personal time away from the blog, because it's so easy to get caught up in everything that needs to be done on your blog. There's always going to be something you need to do. Mm-hmm. And so finding the time to step away from your blog and care for yourself and your family and everything you need to do in your life, is just going to enrich your work and carry you further in the blogging world. And there's good. One other thing that has helped me tremendously, mm-hmm. Is pinning. I spend a lot of time pinning, but I found an app. It's called Tailwind app.
Ah, yes, I'm on that as well.
Yes, and that has been so helpful in scheduling pins of other bloggers that I follow, just to remove that time that you spend pinning. It has helped me tremendously spend less time pinning.
That's great. Let's talk about that for just a second. So do
Sure.
you when you're on the Tailwind app and you're scheduling your pins out, do you schedule like a mixture of other people's pins and your own material all combined together?
Yeah, absolutely. I love sharing really good content. So
Yeah.
if I see something from, a pin that I just love and I love the recipe, I'll pin that. I'll share it on the boards that I'm associated with, and also pin to my boards as well. I just love sharing good content. So, whether it be my pins or somebody else's pins, it goes.
That's great. I love that. I'm with you. I love sharing, when I see these beautiful food photographs, it's like I can't not share it.
Yeah.
I love them. Yeah. But I'm always curious about how like other people look at it from the strategy of sharing their own material. Like, do you share your content across several different boards
I
typically?
do. I do share my content. I pin every day, and I try to spread out my pins throughout the day and just kind of drop them in. Sometimes I'm not as good at that as others. I'm still trying to learn everything about Tailwind app,
Mm-hmm.
but I do share my own content, and I've noticed really. I've noticed a difference in my traffic when I don't share my content and then when I do share my content. And so I feel like it's important for me to get that out there and share it.
That's great. And so, but then the nice thing is when you share other people's content and then your content is kind of interspersed in there, it doesn't come across like you're only sharing your own stuff. And yeah, and probably the only time people would notice that if you were is if they went on your pins and saw what you'd been pinning. And, it's kind of nice if it's not them, they're not seeing the same thing pinned over and over and over again.
Right.
Just a little bit of pin strategy on the side. I love talking Pinterest.
Yeah. Oh, it's just crazy. Pinterest is incredible.
Yeah, well, I use the Tailwind app too, and I really like it. And there's a couple of things I really like, and one is that you can choose to like spread your own content. If you're pinning the same pin to a bunch of different boards, I think it'll do it one day apart.
Yeah.
Or you can go in and just hit like scramble, or I don't remember what the word is, and it scrambles everything up so that, nothing's, you probably is not going to be repeated at that point.
Right. I love that feature. I love being able to scramble everything up. It's just so convenient. They've just done a fantastic job putting that app together.
They really have, yeah. Now I can be on Pinterest all day.
I know. That's
And
all
that leads us back to that topic of work-life balance. I mean, because social media is probably the hardest part, I think, to balance. How do you find time to balance, blog, social media, and life?
Well, that's a really good question. What I've tried to do is with Instagram, because Instagram is by far my favorite out of all the social media platforms, is just spread out my time from, for example, I post to Instagram usually only 2 to 3 times a week. And I know that's probably not very much with regards to the food blog world, but that's what I've chosen has worked for me, simply because I like to respond to my readers. And I feel like if I posted every day, that would take me away from creating content for the blog, creating more content for my readers. And so that's just what has worked for me. And I think the main point there is engaging with my readers. That is so important to me. And I think important to build that human connection. That there's a human on the other side of this blog, or there's other people reading, they're making my recipes, they're saying, hey, Traci, look what I made from your blog, and they're taking pictures of it. I mean, it's just really exciting and fun to share that love of food and really good recipes. But as far as the work-life balance goes, that's what's helped me. I don't post every day because I want to engage with my readers. And I'm finding I'm really not good at Facebook or Twitter. I'm just not good at it. And so I kind of don't spend much time there.
Well, what I'm hearing as this thread throughout your discussion is that you've kind of created these rules about how you do things. So when you tried posting twice a week, you found out that didn't work for you as well. You like to, how many times you want to post on Instagram because you realize the amount of work that goes into each post and the amount of work that you want to put into that. And yeah, I really respect that you've thought that through and found a balance that works for you.
Thank you. I have, Marley. And it didn't happen overnight. This has taken me many years to get to where I'm at. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm really so thrilled that we had this time to talk today. We're kind of coming down to the end of the interview. And so I wanted to ask you, anything new coming for you anything you can talk about at least?
Sure. I am going to, this is not a plug for this. I'm just saying it. They're not paying me to say this.
Okay.
I'm going to be at the International Food Bloggers Conference in Seattle
Nice.
In September. So for all the food bloggers listening, it's a really fantastic conference. And especially if you're new to blogging or have been in blogging for quite some time, it's really, really helpful. And it's a lot of fun. And the food is fantastic.
Sounds exciting. I know that it was on my list of conferences that I want to go to someday. That one sounds great.
Yeah. And then I'm working on an ebook. So stay tuned.
Congratulations. That sounds exciting too. Something you'll have on your site?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, now a few quick and fun questions here at the end of our interview. What's one food item you can't live without?
It's so hard.
I know. One food item.
I know. Probably my olive oil.
Olive oil is good stuff. Mm-hmm. I've seen people who have put olive oil in cake. Do you do that?
Yes, I have, in fact. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Oh, and next to that would be my coconut oil. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Coconut oil. This may sound crazy, but I've actually even used that on my hair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great for your hair. It's great for your skin. Oh, my gosh. What can it not do?
Yes. I have what I call naturally frizzy hair. And sometimes if I put a little bit of coconut oil in the end, it makes them feel a little heavier, they weigh down like I want it to.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah. The things we can do with food, not just eat it.
Right. It's good stuff. It's great.
But you were talking about olive oil. Yeah, that's good stuff too. Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, is there any vegetable that doesn't taste better with a little bit of olive oil on it?
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Brussels sprouts with a little olive oil and garlic. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm good and hungry. What's the favorite app on your phone?
Oh, the favorite app, Instagram.
Of course. Okay,
yeah.
But if we couldn't answer Instagram, do you have another one?
Oh, Pinterest.
Pinterest. Okay, those are good. Those are two very good ones. So two of my favorites as well.
Yep, I love them.
Do you have any time for TV? And if so, what's your favorite show?
Oh gosh, this is really cheesy. I do watch a little cheesy TV, and
cheesy's good.
Yeah, I watch one show, and it's The Bachelorette.
You just have to tell me. I'm just curious. What intrigues you about that show?
I know, that's a good question. My husband's asked me the same question when he rolls his eyes at me. I don't know. Is it the romance, I guess? I don't know.
It may be the amount of intrigue that they add. You're wondering who she's going to pick or whatever.
I know. Well, and then everything else I watch is on PBS. There's nature, Cook's Country, a lot of cooking shows. When I do watch TV, it's PBS.
I see. Yes. We just had to throw in, we all have many sides to us, right?
Right. I know. Isn't it weird?
Yeah. Okay. So how can people find you online?
I'm at vanillaandbean.com, and I'm on Instagram.
Of course.
And sometimes Facebook, Twitter, and
all at Vanilla and Bean?
Vanillaandbean.com. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Traci, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much, Marley, for having me.
Thanks to Traci York for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. If you were busy running around and couldn't jot down something important, don't worry. We took the notes for you. Just head on over to choppedcon.com, where I put up links for each show, including the stuff we talked about today, and more information about our guests. I hope you're loving the Chopped Podcast. If so, it would mean the world to me if you'd head over to iTunes or Stitcher and give it a review. You can do that right now. Also, you can spread the word about the Chopped Podcast using @ChoppedCon on Twitter or Instagram, or even Facebook. Your shout-outs really mean a lot. You inspire me, so I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening and have a great week.